Can we start? ¿Empezamos? Okay, good afternoon. This is a seminar in the series of seminars we have of the EMADID network. And this time I'm pleased to introduce to you Bert Simon from the University of Business and Economics in Vienna, who is also the coordinator of the ICOPER project. So he's going to tell some of the results within this project with 22 partners throughout Europe. So we're looking forward to your talk. Thank you very much, Bert.
Thank you, Carlos, for the invitation and for the opportunity to summarize the status quo of the project. Also to you today, of course. As you will see from the slides, this is really more an editing job that I conducted here rather than, coming up with something new. So although I'm doing the presentation, there are many people that contributed to that. Some of them are sitting here, some of them are in Avila or I don't know where else. And the way I try to structure the presentation is as follows, in 3 chapters, so to speak. I would like to set the scene a little bit because we are also currently thinking a little bit more about the context in which we are. Okay, I shouldn't put it directly to the pocket. So we're currently thinking about the context in which we are developing the reference model, and so this was also the rationale behind by introducing this a little bit. And then I would like to give you a brief introduction to the ICOPER project. I think we can be very short on that, since you know that very well. And then I would like to give you a first consolidated presentation of the first results of the reference model. That's basically the idea. So starting with the first part, I think education is changing a lot these days through the Web 2.0 movement. Web 2.0 in a sense that we have things like Wikipedia, where we have user-driven content, and I think Wikipedia is certainly a media that is of high relevance into the education world. Every student goes there. We have a lot of new high-quality educational learning resources out there through this open educational resource movement, starting back in 2002 at the MIT, but which has now developed quite a lot in that respect. And there are the social networks like Facebook, Sing, and however they are called, where students are. And I think we need to consider that also in the context of our reference model, because this is really the thing that's happening right now, and that is influencing somehow the work of the university. Yeah. We have to deal with, for example, can we cite Wikipedia content? We have to compete against high-quality lectures on iTunes University, etc. And we have to deal with a media like Facebook when it comes to communicating with our students. So this is a kind of the bottom-up thing that's really changing our business to a certain extent. And then from top to down, we have this learning outcome movement, and we saw the slide today developed by Raquel, where she was basically introducing us to the Bologna Declaration, to the change in the European higher education arena, which is basically focused around this notion of learning outcome orientation, which basically means we're not so much interested anymore in what we are putting into our courses, but we're much more interested in what we're getting out of it, but especially what the students are getting out of it, which competencies are these students developing. And as we were discussing also this morning in Avila, it's a very interesting movement which is changing the university in a sense that the university is required to put a higher commitment into teaching and learning. Yeah, it's not good enough anymore to select the smartest students and present them a few books and that's it. It's really about delivering a certain outcome. And this is what this learning outcome orientation is all about. There's this European qualification framework which really wants to go into details with respect to defining them, etc., etc. But the point is really that higher education is changing here, and the goal of the ICOPER project is to take all of this into account and develop an innovative technology-enhanced way of delivering higher education. So what about the ICOPER project? You're aware of that. We have 23 partners. We are concerned with learning outcomes in these 5 areas, defining learning outcomes, designing teaching methods and learning designs, as we call them in the meantime. We are concerned with content development and reuse, learning delivery, as well as assessment. We have several stakeholders that we address. For example, we are of course concerned with learners and instructors, but we are also concerned with university management. In this particular challenge, it is a particular challenge to go through this whole areas of an organization that is concerned with this learning outcome movement. Yeah, because we were just, for example, discussing today in the car where we identified this need that not only the teacher itself needs to be aware of the learning outcome, but that there is like a chain or actually a workflow starting from the Ministry of Education in some countries in Europe down to the program directors of certain educational programs, down to the course designers, and all of them are more or less concerned with the same learning outcome. And how do we support that socially, organizationally, technologically? And this is also the thing that we are, for example, concerned with, but also other stuff like, for example, easing the process of capturing, sharing, reusing, and improving learning resources in all different formats, as I will elaborate later on. From that we conclude our 3 main objectives. We want to adapt standards and specifications in technology-enhanced learning. We want to make learning resources accessible and develop a reference model. What's the status quo with respect to that? And I switch now to the other media than PowerPoint. So basically the reference model is about a couple of concepts that we're really taking care of. And just to make this a little bit more readable to you, put this online. So what's really in the in the center of our thinking are shareable learning resources. This can be, for example, learning designs, for example, instructional designs. This can be also learning outcome definitions, but this can also be other stuff like, for example, content, in particular assessment content, or teaching methods. These learning resources are, of course, stored somewhere. We call this stuff repository, as many others do. We distinguish them from repositories, which are not actually holding the content, but just holding the meta information about this content. We have, of course, other things that we are concerned with, like, for example, the learning assessment. And if we move on to the other part of the model, we are, of course, concerned with evaluation and evaluation design as well. The important thing is that everything we share comes with a license and has a particular rights holder. So this is what we are basically concerned with. And then moving on from these basic concepts, we say, okay, achieving interoperability on a pragmatic level or on a system-to-system level requires several things that you take into account. For example, you need to specify briefly at least the learning and teaching activities that you are concerned with. You also need to talk about how information technology is involved in these learning and teaching activities. And when it comes to system-to-system interoperability, you have to consider, on the one hand, services, on the other hand, data formats that are relevant for doing that. And just to give you an example for these four layers, we have, for example, this activity which is concerned with the generation and use or reuse of learning outcomes. in the sense, for example, that a student participates in a particular course, gets a certified learning outcome from this course, and then maybe wants to share that learning outcome with the rest of the world. For example, in the context of a e-portfolio application or of a recruitment application or something like that. And the way we, for example, foresee this is that we have here the student in the center who is registered at a higher education institution. We have a student information system that stores data about him. And, for example, we have also a registry for his learning outcomes, which can, of course, be part of the student information system as well. But the interesting thing is that this learning outcome is kind of traveling, of course, controlled by the student, in a sense that the student takes this course, a certain official person accredits that this outcome has really been achieved in the context of a course, and verifies that, and he then later on is able to, for example, putting this learning outcome into Facebook or into any other open environment where he would like to show his skills and competencies, for example, for a job application. So this is on the top level what we are really concerned with. And coming more to the technical level, what you see here, sorry about the small typing here, is then a process description, for example, for a process where the instructor of this particular student searches for a related course. We call this unit of learning in an abstract, as an abstract notion, and this course is reused by the instructor and annotated, for example, with learning outcomes, and altered a little bit because he wants to do something else with respect to the second part of the course or whatever. And this very formal process describes how this is happening. For example, he searches and retrieves the learning outcome. Once this is done, he updates the learning outcome, which is displayed here. And once he updates the learning outcome, he uploads the learning outcome. Sorry, the unit of learning. Once he has designed it in his interest, he uploads it, this enriched version, to whatever. Yeah, we call this now abstractly open ICOPER content space. Could be his learning management system. Could be his local file storage where he has a file where he basically describes how he intends to deliver a certain course. Going even one step lower, then on the system-to-system level, on the service level, we said already this person might want to search for this unit of learning. So he needs, for example, tools that speak to each other, kind of search interface language, right? So you want to submit a query from repository A to repository B and collect results. And a particular example for that is the simple query interface, which is nothing else than a set of methods that a system, now we are on the system level, no user involved anymore, right? That a system can use for communicating with other systems. And these particular interface methods are create a session, configure your queries, submit a synchronous query, set result set size or whatever, and yeah, this basically allows you to conduct this distributed search that I was talking about before. And what are we searching in this particular context? We could, for example, search for learning outcomes or even a learning outcome profile of a particular learner or whatever. I mean, we had also this example where we were searching for the unit of learning. The point is, at the end of the day, you need to describe this with a data model. We all know that. And an example for a data model that we have developed in ICOPER is the Parler model. You see, for example, here the Parler model puts in the forefront this personal achievement profile, which is nothing else than a list of achievements, and achievements are nothing else than learning outcomes that are in a certain way accomplished or certified by an institution. And so you have a holder, a human person that has this achievement profile, and you have an identifier for that. You basically can briefly describe that, and you can link multiple achievements to that profile, and then it goes on, and these achievements are described, and the user is described. You can imagine, right? So this is where we are basically standing and what the ICOPER reference model is about on a meta level, exemplified. What we're trying to do now is putting this whole thing into action. Prototype development is one part of that, right? And in the center of all this is this open ICOPER content space. You see that picture here where we have a couple of repositories mentioned, where we have types of metadata illustrated. The point is that you can search for that. I mean, for example, maybe I skipped it for the moment. You have this Google widget that you can put into your iGoogle desktop. So maybe ignore the other stuff here, but this is this iGoogle widget that we developed at the University of Vienna. Michael Dentl has been so kind to work on that, and you can, for example, submit here knowledge management and get a list of related content to this keyword. Or you can view it in that style. We have done other stuff, you know that very well. Raquel has reported about this .learn integration of some ideas of the ICOPER content space. We have done stuff with Moodle, like for example, a search for these units of learning. You can also view them or annotate them, for example, with learning outcomes. If I'm not mistaken, the University of Krakow was in charge of that and contributed this prototype. And for example, we have a Google Moodle widget that displays to you also other related units of learnings that you are, for example, teaching. Or it even, coming back to this Web to Zero movement and Web to Zero spirit, suggests to you teachers that work on the similar subject that you might not know. And then coming also back again to this Facebook idea, you could even, as a learner, add your learning outcomes to your Facebook profile. So this is how this boring specification set can look like in action, and it's real fun, yeah. But then coming again back to the boring stuff, what do we learn from that? Yeah? Design and evaluation of that stuff. Yeah. So we do several things, right? We do data models, we do process models, we do service models, and we do this concept model. I don't speak a lot about the concept model yet, because this is more the entry point to this, and you've seen it already. I don't speak much about the data model design principles, because this is really work in progress. Where we have some results already is on the process modeling front. We have, for example, agreed on that we document every prototype in BPMN. We have tools for that. We have given a brief introduction into BPMN with the important subset of notations, and we have done some examples, as you have seen before, for example, with respect to this unit of learning search and update. And we do this also on the service level. Again, the service level is condensed into something what we call service middle layer, one common interface basically for all the ICOPER services that we are implementing. So on a more abstract level, we again differentiate between four core services. Service number one is user management and learning outcome profile service. We also have this recommendation service, which is a kind of early prototype. We have search and retrieval services. We have a publication service. And for all these four services, certain requirements hold true. Like, for example, we have this extensible learning resource types. So this we are not limited to the learning resource types that I've been introducing to you in the concept model. For example, teaching method, content, blah, blah, blah. We can do more. But we need stable identifiers. We also want to manage relations between resources, etc., etc. And you might wonder, what has this all to do with standards? Yes, it has a lot to do, because what we are doing now is that, driven by the big picture that we developed very, very early, we developed some prototypes. In these prototypes have direct linkages with standards, right? For example, here in Madrid, we look very much into the QTI standard. In other locations, we look more into learning design. So we have a certain list of standards that we are evaluating through our prototypes in a way that we look into a particular interoperability problem. For example, we would like to exchange assessment items, look into QTI implementations, and conclude from the status quo what has to be improved, what needs to change, what can we recommend with respect to really achieving interoperability. And last but not least, we are evaluating ourselves with respect to these goals, and we do this through 3 channels. We do an end-user evaluation. There we ask our end users if the interoperability issues that we have been working on are relevant, are nicely solved, are user-friendly, all that stuff that you ask when you talk to end users of systems. Of course, we differentiate here also between managers and the learner and the instructor, and try to get different feedback from them. And then we do, of course, also an engineering evaluation, because we would like to know from the people developing prototypes if the stuff that we were proposing is really useful, or if there is room here for improvement and change. And last but not least, we do epistemological evaluation, something we did, for example, this morning. We are writing up papers and presenting them at conferences and hope that we survive, right? And I think so far we did a good job. So just a brief introduction to end-user evaluation. So we asked them very basic things about outcome orientation, what they think about this. So really on this 4th layer of the reference model, has nothing to do with technology per se at this very moment. But then we go down to the prototype and ask them very specific things about the prototype later on. And with the end-user evaluation, sorry for the small print, we are also asking for a specific input with respect to the middle layer specifications, but also with respect to the implementations. We differentiate these 2 things, because there might be some issues in the implementations that do not have something to do with the specifications. Yeah, and we hope that by following this path and with all your great support, as we have already received it so far, we are really ready for a new paradigm in higher education based on our reference model. Thank you very much for your attention.
Might be time for some questions, maybe. Okay, there are questions. Thank you very much. Once again, Dan.
Thank you.